Not to alarm you, but it's already halfway through February. And if January was the month where everyone swore they were getting it together, this is the part where you realize the calendar doesn't care. The weeks keep moving whether you caught up or not, and this is where the stress gets weirdly quiet. You're not failing dramatically, you're just slipping. One missed lecture becomes two. Two becomes, I'll catch up on the weekend. Then the weekend turns into laundry, a family dinner, a shift, a commute, or just being tired in a way that makes your brain feel like wet cardboard. You sit down at night with good intentions and a backlog that feels slightly embarrassing, so you do the easiest thing that feels like progress. You watch lecture recordings, maybe a few motivational videos. You highlight and skim through. You reread. You reread again. You panic a little. Repeat. And I get why you do it. It's comforting, really comforting. It looks like studying. It lets you tell yourself you're handling it. But it doesn't create useful recall. It creates the illusion of control. Right up until you try a question and realize you can't produce anything without the notes in front of you. Not to alarm you, but you should probably be a little alarmed. This month has gone by fast already, and the I've got time strategy always feels true until it suddenly isn't. If you've had that thought like, I can't let another year be a blur where I worked hard but still felt behind, yeah, that's the exact feeling this is built for. This is also personal, by the way. This system isn't theory. It's what I've used when I can feel myself slipping, and I need a system that forces output in one sitting instead of letting me drift through another week of, I'll do it later. So here's the fix. This is a 3-hour study system you can copy. It's one focused block that takes you from zero to tested, and the reason it works is simple. You're going to turn one lecture into reusable assets, then force your brain to retrieve and apply the information before you leave the desk. AI isn't the point of the video. It's the leverage that makes the boring conversion step fast, so you can spend your time doing the part that actually makes you better. The 3 hours are split into 2 halves, 90 minutes, then a break, then 90 minutes. At the end, you should have a clean 1-page exam skeleton for the topic, a flashcard deck you can come back to, practice questions, or an essay plan you've actually attempted, feedback on what's missing, and a short list of weak spots that tells you exactly what to do next time. That's the difference between I studied and I built something I can reuse. Before we touch the steps, one rule decides whether the second half works. Your break is not a reward, it's a reset. If you spend the break scrolling, checking notifications, or playing games, you crank up your stimulation level, and the second half of the block will feel boring and painful. Then you'll call it lack of motivation. It's not motivation. It's you making focus harder right when you need it. So the break is low stimulus, no phone, no quick check, no dopamine buffet. You can walk, stretch, eat, shower, journal, meditate, sit quietly, stare at a wall. Boredom is allowed. If you can do about 30 minutes, do it. If you can't, don't fake it. Choose a shorter break window, like 10 or 15 minutes. The important part isn't the exact duration. The important part is keeping it low stim, so you come back calm, not wired. Now the setup. You need the lecture slides or reading, a place to write notes, a flashcards app, and an AI tool like ChatGPT or Claude. These will be more than enough for what we are doing here, especially if you have the paid versions. If your lecture is a video, try to get the transcript. Some platforms let you download or copy it. If you can't, use whatever you do have, your notes, the slides, even your own rough outline. The transcript just makes the process faster because it's raw material you can convert into study assets via AI. One quick boundary: don't paste personal data. Remove names, student IDs, anything sensitive. You're feeding text into a tool with its own servers. The data is not kept locally on your machine, so just bear that in mind. Here's the logic of the whole system. In the first 90 minutes, you're building understanding and turning the lecture into assets. In the second 90 minutes, you're doing active recall and practical use, so it actually sticks. AI helps mostly in the conversion and feedback steps. You still do the thinking, the retrieving, and the writing. If you use AI to replace your brain, you'll feel productive and then fail the exam with confidence. That's the worst combo, which is also what everyone else is doing. Well, that, or just using AI to make reels on Instagram. First, 90 minutes. The first thing you do is set a target so your brain knows what done looks like. Write one line. By the end of this block, I can explain this topic in 60 seconds and answer 3 exam-style questions. That's it. You don't need an inspirational quote. You need a clear finish line. Then you do your initial exposure. If it's a lecture video, watch it. If it's a reading, read it. The key is what you write down. Minimal notes only. Headings, definitions, frameworks, relationships, and anything the lecturer signals as examinable. If you're typing paragraphs, you're basically live blogging your own lecture. It feels responsible. It also wastes time because paragraphs don't automatically turn into memory. Your notes are not the final product here. Instead, they're the raw material you can come back to later to make more structured resources. Now comes the leverage part. You take the transcript or your minimal notes and you use AI to convert it into structure. You're looking for 3 outputs: a clean outline, an exam skeleton, and flashcard ready points. If the transcript is long, paste it in chunks and tell the AI to keep the same structure each time. When you ask for the exam skeleton, you're basically saying, strip this topic down to what would actually show up on an exam. Definitions, key mechanisms, comparisons, pros and cons, and the standard mistakes. This becomes your one-page revision sheet. This is what you come back to later when you don't have time to rewatch a lecture. It's also what you use to check your brain dump in the second half. Then you ask for flashcards. Not make me a summary. You want cards that test you, cards that force you to retrieve. Definitions, compare and contrast, steps in a process. Why does X cause Y? What changes if Z happens? What's the counter-argument? And so on. If your subject is more essay-based, you can still do this. You make cards for claims, evidence, theorists, criticisms, and the structure of arguments. At this point, you should have your skeleton and your first set of cards, and you're going to do something most people don't do. You test yourself immediately on some of the cards you just made. Not because it's fun, because it tells you whether you actually understood anything you just consumed. This is your first repetition loop. It's quick. It's not meant to be perfect, so don't worry. Think of it as a pre-assessment. That's the first 90 minutes. The output is the test. If you walk away with nothing but, I watched the lecture, you didn't do the first half. You consumed content. Consumption is not progress unless it turns into recall and output. Now take the break. Low stimulus. If you're itching to check your phone, that's a signal. It means your attention is used to novelty. Fix it by letting the itch pass. And yes, it's boring. Boredom is not danger. It's just your brain not being entertained for 10 minutes. Trust me, you will be fine. Now the second 90 minutes. This is where you earn the learning. It starts with active recall. You open a blank page and you write down everything you can remember about the topic with no notes, no transcript, no help. If that sounds uncomfortable, good. That's the point. Retrieval is the skill you're being tested on. Do a brain dump. Key terms, frameworks, steps, diagrams, arguments, whatever fits. Then you compare it to your exam skeleton and you mark what you missed. Not emotionally, just objectively. You're building a map of gaps. Then you move to practical application. This is where the lecture becomes exam ready. You choose one concrete task, answer a few short questions, write an essay plan, do a problem set, apply the concept to a case. The format depends on your module. The rule does not change. You must produce something. AI is crucial here, but only as a marker and a personal coach, not as the writer. You write your answer first, then you paste it in and ask the AI to mark it, point out what's missing, identify the misconceptions, and suggest what to drill. If you let AI write the answer, you'll get a pretty paragraph and learn nothing. Your goal is to improve your own thinking, not to outsource it. After you get feedback, you create a weak spots list. This list is the hidden weapon because it makes your next session automatic. The list is not, I need to study more. The list is specific. The exact definitions you forgot, the step you keep missing, the comparison you can't explain, the evidence you didn't include, the diagram you can't reproduce. Then you convert those weak spots into new flashcards. Now, here's the part that people hate but need to hear. Active recall works a lot better than rereading, even though rereading feels better. There's a well-known set of findings often called the testing effect. When you force yourself to retrieve information, you tend to remember it better long-term than when you just restudy it. In plain English, your brain strengthens what you attempt to pull out of memory. And there's also research suggesting retrieval practice can beat more academic-looking methods like concept mapping for learning, even when students think the fancy method will help more. Your gut feeling about what works isn't always reliable. The method that feels smooth is often the method that does the least. So if you've ever said, "I understand it when I read it, but I can't answer questions," that's the predictable result of a recognition-based study strategy. This system fixes that because it forces retrieval and application in the same session. Let's go over some common ways you could mess this up. The first is turning the first half into note-making theater. If you spend the entire 90 minutes making pretty notes, you'll feel organized and still struggle in exams because you didn't test anything. The second mistake is using I like a replacement brain. If I writes the summary, writes the essay, writes the answers, you get 0 reps. You don't get stronger watching someone else lift. I should format and drill. You should retrieve and write. Take advantage of the fact you have a personal tutor in your back pocket. The third mistake is doing the break wrong. If you scroll, you come back with an attention hangover. If you can't do 30 minutes, fine, do 10. But keep it low-stim. Treat it like a reset. The fourth mistake is skipping the weak spots list. If you don't explicitly capture what you missed and convert it into cards, your next session will start from scratch. That's how people get stuck in a loop of, "I've watched this lecture 3 times." Now here's the recap, because this only works if it's simple enough to run without negotiating with yourself. In the first 90 minutes, you set a clear target. Do your initial exposure with minimal notes, then you use AI to convert the lecture transcript into 2 things, an exam skeleton and flashcards that actually test you. You finish that first half by doing a quick test on some cards so you catch misunderstandings early. Then you take the break, low stimulus, no phone. If you can't do 30 minutes, shorten it but keep it clean. In the second 90 minutes, you do a blank page brain dump from memory, compare it to your skeleton, then you produce something practical, exam questions, an essay plan, or a problem set. After that, you use AI like a marker to tell you what's missing. You write a short weak spots list, and you turn those weak spots into new flashcards. That's how the block compounds instead of resetting to 0 next time. If you're using transcripts, keep it simple. Paste them in chunks, tell the AI to keep the same structure each time, and don't ask for a summary. Ask for assets, skeleton, flashcards, practice questions, marking, and gaps. That's what leverage looks like. If you want the exact copy-paste prompts I use for every step, they're in the description. Don't tweak them, just run the block. For now, copy the block once this week. One time, 3 hours. Then tell me in the comments what your weak spots list looks like. That's where the real progress is. See you in the next video.